Hey, what's up guys? Trey here. So in this video, I just want to walk through the book with you. So I'm actually going to go over to the computer, pull it up, talk about each section, how I came up with these sections. Maybe, you know what this is? It's like a behind the movies. This is the director's cut. I want to talk about how I came up with these ideas, specifically what happened in my business that inspired that. Hopefully some of that will inspire you. Let's check it out. All right, guys, Trey Smith here. Really excited to walk through this book with you. And it's funny, I've written a few different books. Wrote one on hyper-casual games, and that was a successful book. We sold a lot of copies. You'll see me doing more, but this one is a little bit different. I doubt I'll be doing behind-the-scenes videos on the other ones, and I'll tell you why. This is a book I started, I think I even mentioned 4 years ago, and then I was thinking about this yesterday. It's actually a lot longer than that. I started writing this book when I lived in Encinitas, and that would have been 2010, 2011. It's 2020. I started this book about 9 years ago. And this is by far the biggest thing that I've created. And I'll do a little spoiler alert. The name has gone through many different changes. And this actually originated, for anyone who's followed my stuff for a while, a thing I did called Mech Accelerator. This was a $10,000 2-day event that I hosted in San Francisco. It was limited. We only had 10 people there, and that's where this originated. Really talking about how I started the beginning of my businesses, and I just kept adding to it. And I even got a book agent and went through the whole thing and figured out how we could get this in Barnes and Nobles and all this stuff. And to be honest with you guys, that sounded like a nightmare. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to release it. So I'm going to start at the beginning. I'm going to walk through everything. So again, this is really my biography of how I've started companies and what worked and what didn't, and broken down into different sections, and now their side hustle habits. But first I want to talk about, and you'll learn about these techniques in the book if you haven't read the book yet, but first I want to talk about how I came up with the name. So again, it went through many, many different names. And side hustle habits was not one that, honestly, that I was planning on going with. The initial one was Side Start, and I really liked that. I felt like it was catchy and it was simple, and it talked about starting a business on the side. Also, a lot of the companies that I created ended up being startups. They didn't start as that. It wasn't like BuildBox even, which is the largest no-code gaming development platform with hundreds of thousands of users. That didn't start as a startup. It took 10 years to build that business. It started as a little thing on the side. A lot of people don't know this. We recently came out with software called BuildBox 3. If you saw this thing, you would just be like intimidated on how advanced it is. I am. It's crazy. It's super advanced. I would have never been able to come out with that. The first thing I came out with was called Project Zero, and I gave it away for free, and it was 10 years ago. And we made 10 game builders slowly. The first one was dead simple. I think it took my co-founder, Nick Radico, I think it took him 4 days to make. It was nothing. And then added on. Then we made Project Zero 2. We made Project Mayhem 2, et cetera, et cetera. And then BuildBox 1, BuildBox 2, and kept making game builders until, we built something significant. And so it's interesting. So I wanted to show that story in this book, how to start something really small. And you'll see if you read the book, and we'll go through it now, most of the things I started were a complete accident. I really mean that. Just like the game development business, I never thought I was going to get into that. It was more okay, people kind of need this thing. We'll make something really dumb and dinky, and oh my God, they like it. Well, let's improve it. And, again, the co-founder at BuildBox, Nick Radico, you'll hear me talking about him a lot. I hired him on Odesk, which is now Upwork. He's one of my best friends in the world. And he calls this iterative approach. So it's you just do something and you get some feedback on it, and you do a little bit more and a little bit more. So I was going to call it Side Start, but then I did something interesting. I decided to test out different names for the book, right? Because I know that if I'm going to run ads to the book, and if you've read the book or taken any of my courses, you know that I'm a big fan of advertising, especially in today's climate with places like Facebook and Google to advertise to. They've gotten so good. Then I need a catchy title, something that's going to work. So I tested 3 different ones. I tested Side Hustle, I tested Side Start, and something I can't even remember. I think it was Getting Started. It was the same exact cover, which is a default cover from Canva. Someone's already called me out on this, and I hope you learn from this. Even though I spent 10 years making the book, yes, I made the cover in 5 seconds on Canva with a default template. It doesn't matter. Putting it out there is what matters. Pushing hard and getting great content in people's hands. That's what matters. So anyways, I tested those three: side start, getting started, and then side hustle. And of course, side hustle won. And it makes sense, right? That immediately says what the book is going to be about. But I didn't stop there. The next test I ran, this was all on Facebook, if you're curious. It was I would pick the exact same demographics, like people interested in entrepreneurship or whatever. And then I would have the exact same book cover, right? Everything's the same. The ad text is the same. The only difference was the actual title on the book cover. That was it. So ended up being Side Hustle 1. And I was like, I just don't want to release a book just called Side Hustle. I don't know. If it's the best thing, like if that's what people want, I'll do it. But I feel like it could be better. So I'm going to drink some water. By the way, I'm shooting this video at 12:30 a.m. On a Friday night in quarantine. And not because feel like I have to or don't want to, because I'm so excited about this. Like, I'm super passionate about this stuff. And I was just telling my two daughters, I was like, if you love things, if you love doing stuff, it's just not work. And I was telling them about, reading the book and writing this thing and how important that is. So anyways, I am a little bit tired, but we're going to go through it. And you might hear me take a couple water breaks, okay? So anyways, side hustle. That's what worked. And I was like, all right, that's perfect. We're going to go with that. But let's take this further. Let's test side hustle with a few different words at the end. And so I went to Amazon and I looked at the top charts of business books. And there was two different words I saw popping up. Number one, the most downloaded book still today, which is unbelievable, was the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So I saw habits. I saw habits 7 times in the top 25. There was one book that was just called Habits. And there was a lot of other books that just had habits in there. I was like, okay, well, I got to, we'll test out side hustle habits. Then I also saw tactics. I think his name is Jocko Willink. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong, but he wrote, and a partner of his wrote one of my favorite books ever, Extreme Ownership. Love this book. I didn't cover that in the book reverse course, but I strongly recommend checking out Extreme Ownership. That's my management style. After reading that book, it wasn't before, but I'm not going to get into that now because I don't want this video to go on for a crazy amount of time, but really good. But their new book had tactics in there. Now, I've always liked the military names and stuff, so I thought that was cool. So I tested side hustle versus side hustle tactics versus side hustle habits. You can guess which one, side hustle habits. So then I was done, but one thing was bothering me. In that top 25, top 50 list of business books, I kept seeing numbers pop up. And again, the number one book in all of Amazon was the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So I was thinking, what if I did instead? I've got 15 chapters in this book. Each one is specifically laid out about something that was really important to me, right? The book is broken down to 4 parts with 15 chapters. And each chapter, just by chance, happened to be revolved around a specific area that I felt like was extremely important for the success of my companies. So I ended up testing, okay, side hustle habits had already won, beat out side hustle tactics, beat out side hustle. And I was like, okay, well, let's test out the 15 side hustle habits versus side hustle habits. And I ran another Facebook test. And if anyone has I think it's in the Getting Started course that I created, I actually show all of this in Facebook. Long story short, you can guess what happened this one. Now, here's the fun fact, all right? For any of you guys that run Facebook ads, I actually ended up doing, instead of focusing on conversions for this, I focused on clicks. I wanted to see, what got people to click the most. And I didn't just target entrepreneurship. I also targeted any from Tim Ferriss to, again, the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey, just anyone that was in the business book market, because that was going to be my target. And Side Start, the one that I chose, had a 0.5% or 0.6% click-through rate. The 15 Side Hustle Habits had a 2.87% click-through rate. I'm bad with math, but we're talking a huge difference. And since we're all into creating businesses, I'll tell you, it definitely made a difference. Like, there was no question. If I would have gone with Side Start, I don't think that you would be hearing this, because I would probably kill the project and figured out a different name for the book. So the important lesson you can get from this, I don't know, we're going on super long here before I've even gotten past the title. But it's funny because in the book, I talk about this kind of stuff through the whole entire book, and I used it to actually create the book. And the biggest thing is, when you create a product, you don't want to just make something and put it out there and cross your fingers. Everything I did with the release of this book was actually based on what I learned in the book, from all of the, the spying and research and all that stuff, all the way down to the title. The one thing I just made up on the fly was create your own life through your own business. Thought it sounded cool. Christian Westlack's a great friend of mine. He's absolutely crushed it, and been a mentor as well, someone that I've worked with a long time. And we don't own companies together, but we talk every single day about business. So, anyways, this is this is my book. So, table of contents again. So this is broken down into 4 sections, and this is interesting. Part 1. Mental habits. If you look at the workbook, and I did something really strange here. I told you I had this conference that was this, $10,000, very exclusive, very limited conference, only 10 people in San Francisco for 2 days. It was phenomenal. Everyone, one person who was there, and I hope, Dario, you don't mind me mentioning your name and your partner, but they ended up going there and building a business that's enormous, like this huge mobile game company, and it started there. They become good friends, but a lot of success came out of that, and it was a great one. And the workbook is the exact thing I taught there. Now, what's interesting is I decided not to take that workbook and turn it word for word into this book. I decided to rewrite it for many reasons, but the first part of the workbook, as you'll see, in the same here, is talking about mental habits. It follows a very similar flow. The reason I bring it up is I'm not really into self-help. That's just not my thing. It's and I get it. Look, but I grew up in, I'll be honest with you guys, I grew up in like rural Georgia, and in a small town, and it was like every man for himself, just out there beating it up. Got my first job at 14. It's just like self-help wasn't a thing there, right? It wasn't in the way I grew up. Now, when I say self-help wasn't a thing, it really wasn't there, but I have learned that it is important. It's super important. I talk about this. I go into more detail in the workbook about this. I do think it's important. What I'm not a huge fan of is the easy self-help. All right, because I don't think anything's supposed to be easy. Like, if it's easy, then everyone does it, and it's crowded, right? So I think like getting your head straight, making your business set up right, all that stuff's supposed to be hard. Now, the people who succeed, the people that crush it, are the ones that figure out that, hey, guess what? Doing all that crap's fun. Like, it's great. It's actually really great and feels really good to get your head right, right? To do a mental reboot, to have great mental habits. So, this part, I walk through a lot of that because I grew up, I'm not going to, read the book here. That's not the goal, but I definitely grew up where I'll be honest with you guys, I thought I was a loser. And my parents were great parents. They would never say it, right? But, but I grew up in the car business. Funny quick story, man. So my family in Macon, Georgia, in the late 70s, this is, before I was actually in the car business. I think I got in the mid 90s or something like that with the family. But in the late 70s, they had 14 different dealerships, like whether it was Lincoln, Ford, Mercury, Toyota, or whatever, 14 in a town of 300,000 people. So it was like my family just was the car business there, right? Now look, the car business now, is it cool? Back then, I think it was probably a little bit cooler. But so I grew up in that, right? And so I grew up and my dad had a Lincoln dealership, and that was going to be like what I was supposed to do. Actually, talk about failing out of college just because I was like, I'm going to be in the car business. Like, I don't care. Like, I went to college for computer science and was like, yeah, this is probably not going to matter. So I just partied a lot and had fun and dropped out my junior year. I had a 2.6 GPA when I dropped out. And I remember sitting in class, being asleep in class, and a friend of mine who was a senior at the time, and I was a sophomore, and she told me after class, she was like, you sleep every time in this class. And, maybe you're just not ready for this. And about that time, I dropped out, and dropped out in the middle of a semester. Did not drop out when like I should have. So I got all zeros, which brought my GPA like down to 1 point something. I mean, literally failed out of college, like the classic. But again, I thought it was going to be because I was going to be in the car business. All right, long story short, went to the car business, sucked at it, hated it. It was the absolute worst for me. It was like pulling teeth to do anything there. And I wanted to be a DJ. So I sold my car and I moved to London and decided I was going to be a DJ. Fun fact, I moved to London on September 11th, 2001, and I was actually on a plane with my girlfriend at the time when the first plane hit. I think I was 21 years old, and landed in Heathrow and saw the second plane hit on a monitor in the Heathrow airport. No one had a clue what was going on. So it was really interesting. So I moved to London during that time against the wishes of my family. This is the first time I like did anything independently and against the against the grain completely, which I think was instrumental, by the way. Looking back, I think it was instrumental to everything I did in the future, being able to fight that and do what I believed in, even though it didn't work. But yeah, it was a really odd time to move to London when Great Britain was being pulled into this war and they didn't want to be. And long story short, I didn't have a visa. So I actually went over there and lied and said that I was going to visit for a week. And my girlfriend had just graduated college. She wasn't an idiot like myself. And she, had the right visas and all that stuff. Now, what that means is I had to like get illegal jobs, right? And it's not as hard in London 2001 as it probably is like in the U.S. now. But long story short, I would work at pubs for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It would work out. They would say, hey, go get your paperwork. And I would go say, yeah, I'm going to go grab it, leave, and then never come back and go try to find another job. I sold Bang & Olufsen stereos. I did, I worked at pubs. I worked at a Italian restaurant one time and was so hungover, I drank 10 espresso shots thinking it would help me out. Got the jitters, had to leave, almost went to the hospital. It was a nightmare, all right? But the interesting thing is I did actually get signed to a record label out there and had a short career as a DJ. All right, so the reason I'm telling you this is it's not like, I grew up being valedictorian. It was the opposite, man. I mean, I was, to be honest with you, kind of the stoner loser kid a lot. And I think that's important. And that's why I wanted to talk about this mental reboot part, because for me, I had to have a mental reboot. Like, if I would have gone through life like that, and I know people who did, I know people who never got out of that, I know many people, guys, who never got out of that, then this wouldn't have happened. And if you're wondering what was the change, it was the only thing I cared about at the time was being a DJ. Like, I really wanted to do that, and I realized that that wasn't going to work, right? But I did get signed to that record label, and that was cool. And I was like, okay, well, I do like music and making music. And around this time, I actually met my cousin, Frank Kern, and he was making, I remember, he was making like $50,000 a year, $70,000 a year, teaching parrots to talk on the internet. And it was ridiculous. Now, what's funny is anyone that knows the Frank and Trey story, if you guys don't know Frank Kern, look him up. He's my cousin. He's amazing. I love him. He's great. And a lot of people would think we like grew up together, but I actually didn't meet Frank. He was, not like my first cousin, but a close cousin. I think our grandfathers were brothers. So I don't know what you call that, fourth or third or whatever. But the thing is, we had an enormous family. So we didn't really connect until I was about 24, 25. And the internet's just kicking off. And, he tells me about this freaking thing that he went to Barnes & Noble's. He found Parrot Talk magazine, contacted the editor and said, hey, will you make a course and I'll pay you X amount of dollars? And it wasn't much, like $500 or something, for me to interview you about how to make parrots talk. And he did that. And to start advertising online, he was the only person online that was teaching parrots how to talk or teaching people to teach their parrots how to talk, and crushed it. So, he told me that, and the first thing I thought was, okay, well, I know how to play piano. I'm not great, but I got signed to a record label, and I'll make a piano course. And I did that. And at this point, I'd gone through multiple jobs. London didn't work out. I was back in America. I was absolutely miserable. I didn't know what I was going to do. I was living at my parents' house. And, again, like I'm not trying to trying to go overboard with this, but I definitely wasn't like winning the. I was more the black sheep than the winner of the family. And I made this course, and like instantly started making like $500-$600 a day with it. I was like, what the hell, man? Like I'd never done anything like that. So ended up making enough to quit my job as a real estate salesman, which wasn't working out anyway, as you can imagine. And I realized at that point, that was my mental reboot. And here, I talk about here, I wasn't lazy. I just never was doing anything I liked, like ever. I mean, I mentioned it here, and this is important. I've got ADD really bad. And I'll talk about how I can't be motivated to finish a 90-minute movie. And that's true. Like, I guarantee you, I do not finish probably, I finish about 30% of movies that I start. So much so it drives my girlfriend crazy. Because I'll start a movie and start watching stuff. I'm just like, dude, I can't do it. And even good movies like Knives Out. Last night just lost interest, right? Get ADD and go crazy. And so when I found out that if I liked something, I could channel that. And again, right now, 12:48 a.m., I'm recording this. Just told the kids good night, came in here, turned on the mic, was like, hey, let's do this. It's because I'm passionate about it. If I like something, I'm a hard worker. So I thought I was lazy. Like I just figured I was lazy. That was it. I was just like, I guess, man, I'm just a little bit of a loser, And then with that piano course, it was like I was a machine for the first time in life. It's like I remember working at the car dealership, and I remember people like picking on me because I was like the boss's kid, and they were like, man, look at you just got it made, you're not doing nothing. It's like, and it was embarrassing. I hated it. It's absolutely embarrassing, and after a while I believed it. But then I saw for the first time, I was like, wow, man, when I'm really into this, I go nuts on it. And the interesting thing about the piano course, that's how I got my start. And the course cost nothing to make. I bought, it wasn't ScreenFlow. I use ScreenFlow on Mac for this right now and for stuff. It was Camtasia back then on the PC. I was on PC back then. And I bought that for $49. And that was my out-of-pocket expense. I used like the crappy mic that was on my computer. I didn't buy a mic, and recorded that thing and built it up to $70,000 a year. And then made multiple different information style courses. A lot of people don't know this. I think I ended up selling, not necessarily building, but selling products, some as affiliate, some as that I made myself. And if you don't know what an affiliate is, that's like if you found that someone was selling a information product or any kind of product, but information product on how to play guitar, and you didn't want to build that whole course out, then they probably have an affiliate program, and they'll pay you like 50% if you get a sell. So between doing things like that, and I did a lot of that with the piano stuff, where it'd be like, hey, if you want to learn guitar, then go here, and it would be an affiliate link. I think it was like 60 or 70 different niches that I ended up generating at least some revenue in over the next 4 years. And again, that's nuts, right? And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know many people that did that. But again, when I was into it, if I was passionate about it, then I didn't care. I just hit it hard. One, the craziest one was pigeon racing. And I didn't even know this was a thing, but this is, and apparently it's more popular in Great Britain. So, anyone in London and UK probably knows this more than here in the States. But I didn't even know what that was. I was just like, this is crazy. And I ran, advertising to it, and ended up doing sales in pigeon racing. So ended up doing that over a few years. Ended up building a couple different businesses that did pretty well. Did over 7 figures of sales at that point with information products over all these different niches, just kind of split up. And then in the book, I go over the credit card massacre. This is really important. I'm going to be honest with you. After working on this so long, I just decided to put it out there. One of the biggest mistakes you can do, guys, is obsessing over it. I definitely obsessed over this. I mean, the truth is, I built BuildBox, and I was going to do this book. BuildBox started taking off, and it became a machine, so I just focused on that. But then when I came back, I really wasn't happy with some of the format here. But Credit Card Massacre is talking about probably the, I don't know, you're going to hear me say this a couple of times, but one of the most important aspects by far of building a business was outsourcing what I hate. All right, guys, let me tell you, this is so ridiculous. All right. I'm in my apartment right now. I have a stack of bills in front of me. Now listen, I've got this down to a science. To pay a bill at this point in my life, all right, I don't have right now, I'm actually working on hire one. I don't have an assistant in San Francisco. That's where I live. So because of that, I found a service that would let me take a picture of a bill. I open it and take a picture of it, and then I send it in, or just email it rather. Just take like a picture of all the bills, I put them on the floor, and then I have a company that pays it. I know it's stupid, but I am just bad at that shit. Again, it's not, hey, if you're bad at something and hate it, you're not a loser. There's nothing wrong with it, right? What you're good at, what you care about, could be 10 times more important. Let me tell you what doesn't make money. Paying freaking bills, all right? That's making no money, right? I love marketing. I love writing books. I love doing this. I like shooting videos. That's why I'm doing that at 1 a.m. instead of paying bills. But here's the embarrassing part. I wrote this whole thing out here, right? Which is totally true. How I ruined my credit because I didn't pay some bills by accident and messed up that. And then how I outsourced it. I'm staring at a stack of bills right now that are probably over a month old that I'm going to knock out tomorrow because we're talking about this. Still have the same habits, you know? Here I am, built bill box 8-figure business and still hate paying bills. Just can't stand it. It's not about the money. I just can't stand taking the time to do it. And let me tell you, man, if you could design your life around only doing what you like, then it's hard not to win. If what you like, is somewhat business related, right? So outsource what you hate. Huge one, all right? Now, over here on the left, I do want to talk about this because it comes up a few times in the book, which is the bell curve, all right? Now, let me tell you the important part of this. All right, let's say you want to copy what I did. That's great. All right, you want to go make a piano course. No problem. That's how I got my start. That's how you're going to get your start, all right? Here's why that won't work. When I did that back in 2000, and I don't know, what was that, 2007, something like that, we were probably right here on the demand in time, right? We were probably right here, right on the rise. I was probably, at the time, the internet in 2007, 2006 was early internet. It was only at that point, 12 years old, something like that. Google had just started doing AdWords, all that kind of stuff. Gmail's 3 years old. That's where we're at. So I was probably the 4th piano course at that time on the internet. And it's so funny, hindsight's 50-50. If you ever look back and go, God, I missed out. Hey, I could have a huge piano company if I would have done it instead of moving on to whatever shiny object I saw at the time. But I don't think like that. And while we're at it, don't ever look backwards, man. I've never met anyone successful who looks backwards. It absolutely does not work. My favorite DJ in the world, John Digweed, and if you follow me for a while, really big fan. Seen him live 1,000,000 times. He's freaking amazing. But even him, and I've noticed it's a trait of successful people. People be like, man, you've been around now for 20 years. Why don't you ever play a classic set? Play the stuff that how you got famous, that they love. And he's like, man, I don't look back. You can't. If you look back, you die. And that's true. So I don't care that the piano business didn't blow up or the mistakes I made. All of those got me here where I'm at now, and I learned from them. And even if your mistakes put you in a terrible position, even if your mistakes ruined your life, they are huge lessons that you can learn from, right? If your mistakes because of addiction or, because of relationships or any of that kind of stuff held you back, then great, all right? That's like your scars that make you remember, and we all got them, man. That's the scars that make sure you don't repeat those mistakes. So, piano is probably about right here, right? And so I wrote it up to about here and then got into something else. But right now, selling piano courses online is probably about right here. And the bell curve is extremely important. BuildBox, all right? We were the first truly, arguably, but I believe it, first truly no-code game development software ever. Totally by accident. We'll get to it. Totally by freaking accident, right? I'm not a genius and figured out that no-code was going to be huge in 2020, all right? But I've gotten lucky a lot. I've gotten lucky a lot because I've had a lot of good accidents because I hit a lot of crap, guys, right here, all right? Right here. You want to know another one? Don't tell anyone, but selling books with Facebook's marketing and Facebook ads right now is like about right here, okay? Like that's why I'm doing this now. I wrote this book. I was going to try to put it in Barnes and Nobles. Why did I not do that? Because I realized, first off, this is funny. You want to know the truth? They wanted me to do like a, what do you call it? Like this huge report thing that was going to sell the publisher on why this would work and all this stuff. And I don't do shit like that. I was like, that sounds absolutely miserable. So I just shelved the book for a while. But right here is selling, books and teachings and stuff, I feel like right now on Facebook ads, because their targeting's just gotten insane. It's gotten so good, right? So you got to hit things on the rise. When your business, when you choose what you want to create, what you're going to do, if it's right here, you're screwed. There's just no way it's going to work. All right? And I'll tell you why. It's two reasons. One, competition's going to be too thick to be able to get through. Now, why does that matter? A lot of people are scared about competition for ripping off. They're scared about competition for, that your customer's going to like them more than you. I don't really worry about that stuff. For me, it's one simple thing. If I want to advertise the business, the bids are going to be high as hell because there's too much competition. All right? That's the biggest thing for me. And then, number two, the customers are going to be satisfied already, right? There's not going to be as much of a need in the market right here. You're going to have all these people that were interested in piano courses, and instead of having a market of 50 million people who want piano courses, there's already been 20 million sold through the 10 competitors that raised up all the prices as they were selling them, and then now there's only 40 million left or 20 million or whatever it is. Does that make sense? So catching this right here is huge. I'm going to give you one more example. My daughter likes a band called BTS, if you ever heard of them before, K-pop band. And she got in with a friend group that makes pins. They make actual metal pins. It's really cool. And they design them on the iPad. They actually send those designs out. And then companies will make them into pins and they sell them. And man, they had a whole system down and crushed it. And that was something that we looked at doing like a couple years ago and just never ended up doing. And we talked about doing it now. And I showed her this, or discussed it. And I was like, where is it at? Because we were here a couple years ago. We should have done it. We just got caught up, just like all families end up doing something else. Where's it now? And she was like, I'm going to be honest with you. Like, from what I'm hearing, people aren't making as much money. People have a lot of these pens. And I think we're probably here. I was like, we can't jump in, man. It's too late. So timing is everything. And that's why you can't ever, ever, ever jump on some success train that someone had years ago. And it's why it drives me crazy to see people who had one big hit, 7 years ago selling some products about it. I mean, look, I'm not trying to brag or toot my own horn, but the thing is, what's in this book, this shit's repeatable. I mean, I've done it multiple times, literally doing it again right now with the actual book that is showing you how to do it by selling the book. I mean, it's absolutely repeatable. All right. So outsource what you hate. Again, need to take my own advice, literally staring at a stack of bills, which is ridiculous. Email bankruptcy. The whole point of this is, and again, this is my level. This is my self-help. Law of attraction, bullshit. All right. That's not law of attraction. I get the base idea, if you're into self-help, that if you want something bad enough, you'll work hard enough for it. I'll give you that. But vision boards, you put it up there and look at it every day. I'm going to tell you guys, I've had a Ferrari and I never had a picture of one. But I tell you what I did is I busted my ass. All right. Also, after I had the Ferrari, almost lost everything. All right. That's the part of self-help that no one will tell you. And a lot of those guys that teach that stuff, I know for a fact they've almost been there too. And I talk about that in this book as well. All right. So declaring email bankruptcy. All right. This is more just about you got to remove distractions. All right. And this is something that I need to do right now. At the time I'm recording this, I'm actually working at App on Board. That's who bought BuildBox. I'm a chief product officer there, doing this and still running BuildBox. So it's a lot going on. I'm getting 300 to 400 emails a day. And I can't, unfortunately, right now declare email bankruptcy. When I wrote this back in Encinitas, I could. So this might not be something that you can do right now. If you have, but let me tell you, what's interesting? You know what I'm about to do? Here's what I realized. I'm missing emails because I'm getting 300 to 400 a day. I'm missing them from important people. So what I'm about to do, and if you can't do email bankruptcy and emails driving you nuts, this is a solution, is I'm going to make another email that's just for people on the executive team. John, CEO of Apple, on board, and then the vice presidents in the company, my girlfriend, my kids, that kind of stuff, to get rid of the noise. Because what I found is, like, of those 300-400, man, I mean, I'm just like, just ignore, right? So anything that's just taking up BS time in your life, you got to cut it out. For you, maybe it's not that. For you, maybe it's, hey, this is a tough one. Maybe it's a person. And we'll dive into that. That's a huge thing that a lot of people don't talk about. I talk about it a lot in here, time vampires, and how people can just suck the life out of you, man. And, even that, you got to cut out distractions. I don't mean that in a hard way, but you got to cut out things that are holding you back. All right. You got to come up with solutions. And again, back then for me, it was literally, I quit email, which was amazing. I also deleted my Twitter when I had like 20,000 followers. I only have like 7,000-8,000 or something now. But I had a Twitter with about 20,000, and I just felt like it was a negative input in my life. I deleted it. So, and I'll tell you one more thing on that. What I found is doing something really big like that, like deleting your Twitter, stopping email, an abrupt change to improve your life, it's scary, man. It's scary as hell. And it has never not worked out for me. And even when I started BuildBox, because I deleted my Twitter before that, and I built a small following of people who were following me for marketing advice and how I was building companies. And then I wanted to start BuildBox, and I was like, damn it, man, I had a good little thing going there. I kind of wish I wouldn't have deleted that Twitter account. Guess what? It didn't matter. None of it mattered. It was good for me at the time. It got me focused. Hey, how about this? What if the negativity, and I'll tell you, I got a theory that Twitter is by far the most negative social network. Everyone goes there to complain. Actually know people high up at Twitter, and they know that too. And that's why I deleted it. Hey, what about this? What if I would have never got BuildBox or Game Academy or whatever came before off the ground because I was reading too much negative shit? So, to me, it's like I've never made an abrupt move, whether it was moving to London and screwing up the family business or deleting Twitter, quitting email, that hasn't like paid off. It's really weird. And, we'll talk about revenue later, but the hardest decisions I ever made were killing products that were making money, but I felt like I could make more money if I didn't have to focus on it. And sometimes it would be significant where, it was 7,000-8,000 a month or something like that here and there. And it's like, hey, I feel like this is taking too much time and it's not growing. So growing is super, super important when we get to business, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Serve the market. This is, you know this, but people forget it. The biggest reason that it doesn't work if you come up with an invention is because you're not serving the market, you're serving yourself. I know so many people that would come up with cool inventions, like actual physical products. I remember one guy came up with a really cool product for baseball to throw like perfect pitches and get your pitch down. And he was super obsessed with baseball, and he talked about how it helped him. But the thing is, the way he threw the ball wasn't like how everyone throws it, right? A little bit of a twist to it. So he built this whole product, built this whole entire organization, and did all this stuff, raised money, and it bombed because he wasn't serving the market, he was serving himself. So make sure when you're creating something that you're creating it not for yourself, but for the market. And I say, listen to your customers, they'll tell you what you want, and that's totally true. And I have a great story here about Maze Plus, one of the first hit games we ever made. So we've made over 200 games, and out of those, 8 have been successful. That should show you another lesson there. And again, we enjoyed it. We loved it. That's why we made 200 of them, which is insane to make 200 games. But, if you like it, it doesn't seem as tough. And that was an important lesson in listening to the customers. With BuildBox, if we'd have listened to the customers, probably wouldn't have worked. And I'll talk about that later on as well, how the customer's not always right. And actually right here. So, you want to take feedback, right? But, one thing I like about, you'll see me mention Steve Jobs a few times in here because that was right when the autobiography came out. That was a little before. It's completely cliched. But, I mean, dude, I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, that if you haven't read not autobiography, but the biography of Steve Jobs, it really is some of the best business lessons, man. Just the best business lessons. And one I remember from that is that he hates focus groups because people don't know what they want, right? So if it's something really specific, like in Maze Plus, where they hated a feature that we had, right? Okay, then yeah, we can replace that. But if it's something more abstract, or even more important, if it's something that just helps them and not the community, then that's not going to be applicable to you. That's just not how it works. And Steve Jobs' whole point with the focus groups is people don't know what they want until they see it. And even like the touch screen, like they're not going to pick that. They're going to say, I definitely want a physical button until you can show them. And that's definitely true. But I mean it more in a different way from what I found is everyone who complains to your support or tells you what they think your product should do, they're looking at it selfishly. They're not looking at a wide market here. I'll give you an example. Let's say someone was using BuildBox and making a video game. And they were like, what sucks, man, is you just don't have this next level button. Like if you finish one level, we need a button right here. It's simple. You click the button and you go to the next level. Well, the thing is, if we implement that in BuildBox, then someone who's making another game and their levels work a different way, that button might not work. And then that person tries to use the button and they're totally confused. It's like it's broken for them. And so what you want to do, and I think I go into detail here, but what you really want to do is take their goal and then think about how can I do that in the product for everyone. And it doesn't matter if it's software or if it's an information product like this. Let's say someone said, Trey, the thing is I really want to know how to do upsell conversions for information products. Well, I don't know what type of product that you guys are making, right? I don't know specifically what you're doing. Or even worse, what if it was, hey, if I'm selling a fitness product, I need to know how to do upsells. So, for me, I think it would be more important to look at the more abstract version of, and I'm someone that's done upsells in software and information products and video games, right? Those are very, very different platforms. So what was the things that made those work, from a psychological perspective? I think that would help people more who read the book as a whole instead of just the one person who's making one specific thing. All right, overthinker syndrome, huge, absolutely freaking huge. I do it. Everyone knows does it, but I've seen people just absolutely ruin it over this. I'm not sure, but I think this is the part. If not, it's coming up in a minute. I got a great friend who saw me, again, like I told you guys, it's not like I hung out with Harvard, graduates and stuff, I was a bit of a stoner. And so when I started, building businesses and taking off, I started working with a couple people that did it. Some were successful. But I remember one guy, and he saw the TV software that I did, and that was the big rocket ship. Doing the piano course and stuff was cool, but the TV is what went from, to the piano doing 70,000 a year to over $1 million profit, in 12 months, and buying a new house, all that kind of stuff, right? And so when that happened, this guy had a really great idea for a piece of software. It was really simple because I think the trick is when you're getting started, it's got to be simple, always simple. Again, BuildBox wasn't BuildBox. BuildBox was Project Zero. It took about a week. It was dead simple. I could go outsource and get Project Zero, the first one made right now, for under $1,000, no question. And that's what that business started as. And and I told him that, and he built something that was great. It was cool. It was. I'll tell you guys what it was actually, because I don't think he's going to listen or care. It was a mining tool for an MMO game, and he was into this game, and he made this thing that would you could go set up and pull out your pickaxe or whatever, and it would automatically hit the keys on your keyboard to mine, and it worked. And he could set that up, go to bed, wake up, and have a bunch of gold. Now, if you did that now, you probably get a cease and desist. But back then it was like World of Warcraft. I think Lotro, Lord of the Rings Online. That was like the only two big ones. EverQuest was still around. Anyways, long story short, guy makes the software, finishes it up, and then doesn't release it. And he overthought it. He overthought all of it. He got to the finish line and didn't cross it. And and this also goes in with the procrastination, which we'll talk about. But the thing is, and I love that guy. I love him to death, man. And he wasn't the only one. This was, when I got into selling courses to entrepreneurs, this was the most fascinating part to me, was how many people would get to the end and then not release it. And what's interesting? The only time that happened to me, the only time I can remember that happened to me was this book. Even right now, 42 now, started this at 27, right? Started at 25, first million at 27, ups and downs, crushed it, had my low points for sure, but been through the ringer and back. This was it. Now for me, I overthought this book because I felt like it was too personal. And you know what? I'll be honest with you guys. I never talked about my life in the car business. And we get to the part about me making $1 million in a day. Like, I was super and awkward and embarrassed, to be honest with you guys, to talk about that. I didn't want it to look braggy. The only reason I left it in there, I was going to pull it out. The editor of this book was like, no, I think that's super important to the story. And it's true, and it happened, and it's crazy. But this was the one thing I overthought. Now, the thing is, I've released this at this point. I'm shooting this, and it's been out for 7-8 days. And I've received more feedback on this book. People even asking, hey, can you turn this into like an EPUB or whatever, which I have, by the way. I'll mail that to you guys for the early people. Like, I've had more positive feedback on this book than anything I've released in a very long time. And it just goes to show, man, put shit out there and do not overthink it. I've been a victim, and I've seen even bigger things where it's completely stopped people from moving forward. Now, the thing is, some of the people that I've seen that have gotten near the finish line or to the finish line, like I was talking about, and not do it, what would have happened if they'd have crossed it? Like with this book, this book, we sold 40 copies the first 2 days. My goal was to sell 2. So you never know, man. And overthinking just never works. The people who crush it don't overthink. And look, we're not going to get into politics, but I don't think, I'm not going to go there, but I'm telling you, successful people who get far, whether you like them or not, they rarely overthink. Okay? I'll say that. All right, do you need a college education to get rich? We'll make it fast. Felled out 1.7 GPA. Peter Thiel, who I do respect, 0 to 1 is one of my favorite books. He, actually, this is interesting. I met a Thiel fellow recently. If you don't know what that is, I did not. He started a fund where he would say, if you don't go to college, I will give you $1 million or whatever dollars it is to start a business. And really sharp girl, one of the sharpest girls I've talked to, or guys, in forever. She was so impressive, and that's what she did. And you know what? She was, if I had to guess, mid-20s or something, and had a successful business with just crushing it. I don't want to spoil what she was doing, but it was impressive, right? College doesn't matter. Now, I'm going to go against the grain here. I don't know. This is a tough one. I definitely, for years, up until probably 3 years ago, was really big on saying, hey, I think college is good. I think you can learn a lot. But I think, I'm going to be honest with you guys, I'm going to admit when I'm wrong always. I got an ego, I'm sure, but not on that, all right? I was convinced that my business career was harder because I didn't give a shit about college. And I didn't pay attention in the classes. And when it came up, even the beginning, I didn't know what an LLC was versus an INC. I didn't know how to incorporate the business. Once I grew it, and now I'm at App On Board, which I'm chief product officer of. We got 55 people there, and my team I think is freaking 40 or something like that. I didn't know how to organize it, and I thought I would learn all that in college. And so I felt like I really started behind the ball. I was probably stunted there. Now, it's funny. I remember talking to my dad, and I was like, man, I just wish I would have finished college because I think I would know all this stuff. And he didn't finish college. And he's like, yeah, I'm with you. And he built multiple companies. I come from a crazy line of entrepreneurs, starting in the car business. And then I realized something. I don't know if that's true. I don't really think that's true. And I think I was probably wrong there. So I'm really not sure if I believe in college anymore, but I'm still trying to figure that out. If you're going, I wouldn't quit. But yeah, it's funny. A big part of it, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I used to think that I would come out to Silicon Valley here and be embarrassed or something. I think some of that really is probably more of a personal ego type thing with the college. And, it was about 6 months ago, I was on a Zoom call with a pretty well-known company. It was the founders, and it was 3 founders, and 2 went to Harvard and 1 to Princeton. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. I looked them up. I always do this before any call. I get on LinkedIn and check them out. And I was intimidated, right? You guys know I fell out of Valdosta freaking State, dude. It's like like I literally couldn't get into UGA, University of Georgia. So I went to the party school and fell out of that, right? And I was like, damn, man. Like, I've done a lot of calls with, people from Stanford, whatever. But I was a little intimidated. And I get on this call. I'm going to be honest with you guys. They were the biggest jerks ever. And they were supposed to be kind of courting me. And about halfway through this thing, I realized something, because we were getting deep into the business. We were talking about like the employees. We were talking about schematics and different things. And again, at this point, I've been in Silicon Valley for 4 or 5 years, and been in software for a while, right? It was slow. I didn't know any of this crap 10 years ago. Know it now. And I realized something. I was like, these dudes know nothing more than me. Like, they really don't, And they're kind of jerks. And so, you know what I did? I was like, hey guys, this is cool, but I don't think it's really going to be for me. So, just hit me up on email, and I appreciate the call. And I hung up, and I had an employee on the call with me, and she called me afterwards and was like, wow, those guys were really jerks, weren't they? I was like, yeah, they are. Now, listen, I'm not saying that, everyone from Harvard and Princeton is a jerk, but the point being is that's the day I really realized that, here I am, failed out of college, and have Ivy League guys trying to court me on something. And they're jerks, and I'm shutting the call down. And not like as, oh, look at me, I'm cool. But the thing is, like, I was doing that because I understood exactly what was going on. I knew just as much as them about their business and my business once I dove in. I knew it wouldn't work, and honestly didn't feel like putting up with the attitude. So, I think I might have been wrong there, what I used to think. I used to think that I would have had a head start by going to college, but I don't know. I don't know if I would have actually learned the things I thought I would have learned, because I didn't actually finish, right? And I was going to computer science, not like business management. And so, that's the interesting thing. Now that I've looked into it more, I don't know if I'd have learned more about setting up LLCs and company structure. So, if you're in college, finish. If you're not, don't. I don't know if it matters. Just don't be a jerk to people. That's the biggest. All right, so this is a good one for 2 reasons. All right. First off, I wrote this section around the time I built Game Academy. All right, quick historical breakdown. Loser. All right. London, loser, completely ruined the family business. I was set up with my own car dealership when I came back from London, ran it to the ground, literally had to shut it down. Embarrassing thing, right? Get into real estate, still, semi-black sheep, right? Then piano, then TV software, okay? Then iPhone games. We're not going to talk about that little TV software to iPhone games where I almost went broke, like real close. And start a company with the Wolf of Wall Street. Long story, selling websites to plumbers. I know. And then from there, built the game business, past 7 figures, started Game Academy to teach people. This was about that time. So at this point, almost everything I'd done had been one-man band-ish, right? And had a great run. Had a great run with only 3 or 4 employees. But this is when I started learning about scaling out. And so, so the theory here is, and if you've read many business books, you might have seen something similar, is that rich people buy time, poor people sell time. And that's a crass way of saying it. I think there's a better way of wording it. But it's really true, right? If you look at someone like Rupert Murdoch, this guy literally is just in the time buying business, right? Whether it's hiring more high-skilled employees or technology or whatever, his whole entire business is buying time. Now, let me tell you what I've learned since then, from growing Game Academy out to 7 million in sales and 7,000 customers, 8 million, and then from there to Billbox at 8-figure deal, is that rich people build assets. And that's something I didn't really get at this point. And I want to leave it in there because I know most people who are reading this book aren't trying to figure out how to go from 7 to 8 figures, but it's an interesting thing. And it kind of happened by accident for me. But I know a lot of people who have made a lot of money, but they didn't build an asset, something that they could sell. Now, I'm going to tell you something interesting. What I'm doing right now with this book is an asset, right? I wrote this book. I can sell it multiple times. That's cool, but it's not something I could exit with. Like, it would be hard to exit Trey Smith. That would be a difficult thing. And I know a lot of people who have built brands to do that. Now, I'm doing this because I love it. Again, geez, it's freaking 1:32 a.m., right? And I'm doing this because I love it. It's a passion thing. That's it. It's, I think it's going to crush it. I think the revenue is going to be through the roof, or it's already been well. But the point being is, I do think if you want to think long-term, more than just rich people buy time, which is true, right? And that goes back to outsource shit you hate. Don't do things you don't like. And I mean, look, if your whole entire job was just coming up with ideas and then telling one person who got it done for you, then you got to figure it out. I was really close to that. I never got to there, though. I'll be honest with you. I never did. Whether it was Game Academy, Build Box, or any of it, I was so damn close, but never quite got there. But anyways, I do like the ideology of this, and it was something I didn't realize for many, many years. And it did, what it caused me to do? Realizing this caused me to go hire more people. And I did this a very weird way, even to this day, especially where I am in San Francisco, Silicon Valley. I did this with outsourcers and still do with this book and all this. Like, everyone I've hired through Upwork. I mean, that's just the way I like to operate for many, many reasons. We won't get into it now because this is already going on for an hour, and we're here. I'm going to have to speed this up or finish it tomorrow. But anyways, long story short, the goal here is to teach you guys that, yes, you do need to make sure you hire people to do the stuff that's driving you crazy. Again, I really want to drive that home because that was a huge part of the success. And then also focus on assets, focus on things that grow. Growth is super important. Okay, so Fun in the Living Organism. Yeah, you can read that later. Bulldozer Effect. All right, I'm going to just tell you this really fast. I would read the whole thing. I put a lot of thought behind all of this. And even the story about Colonel Sanders, if you don't know it, is really fascinating. But this was a huge thing. If you like something, it's not that difficult to be pig-headed nuts about it and keep hitting a wall. And you have to do that. You absolutely have to do it. I'm doing it right now with this new business that this book has started for me. I did it I'm still doing it in Build Box. As Chief Product Officer, still doing that. All right? Done it everything. And that's a tenacity thing where when you hit an obstacle, you just have to bulldoze it. You absolutely do. And this is an easy way to do it. There is no not moving forward, period. All right, so let me give you an example that would be more applicable to you starting a company. Let's say that you're starting out something and you get no sales. I mean, this is so damn common. I know someone recently, they were so excited. They built a whole course and they did it the right way, man. They did it so good, professional studio, all that stuff. And they released it. They got some sales. All right, great. Proof of concept. Hey, dude, if you get one sale on anything, hey, this is a big one. I don't know if it's covered in the book. It's so freaking important. You get one sale on anything, you are in. I'm not saying that it's going to be $1 million a year product, but you don't know that is so damn hard. You get that, you're golden. You can figure it out. Maybe you ain't got to figure it out now. Your targeting's off, your product's off, your sales page sucks, whatever. But if you get to that point where you get one sale, you're in. And this guy got a lot of sales. And then he, ran a couple other tests and didn't get any sales and closed up shop. Like, that cannot be the answer. So it's got to be, we identify, we figure out what's going on, what the true issue is. In this case, if it's no sales, like, why did those sales happen? Oh, they knew me, they trusted me. That was like our core group. Okay, great. Then how do we build another core group? The second one is, okay, first identify. Second, how do we do it, right? Build out the game plan for it. If it's, trust, then okay, let's do live events and on YouTube and start talking to people. Let's email and help people out. You can build that, right? which I think was the problem with that, guys. All right, perpetual procrastination. This also, and I think this is actually where I talk about my bud who built the software that he didn't push through. It kind of goes with both, or maybe I ended up pulling that out. But anyways, definitely people who put things off forever. It's very, very common. You can't do it. I'm going to take a little water break. 1 second. You just got to get it done, man. And look, if you can't get it done, like these bills in front of me, then you got to hire someone to do it, right? Right now I'm in quarantine. I can't, but I'll trust you. As soon as this quarantine's done, I'm going to pay someone to come pick up these bills. Literally, pay someone to come pick up the bills and pay the damn things. Because, I could ruin my credit. So don't procrastinate. And then, look, I understand not everyone can go out there and hire someone to do it for you. All right? I get that. I was there. All right? In that case, man, at some point, you just got to do it. And that's the crazy thing, man. The thing is, like, you have that thing in your head that you've been trying to get done forever. You've been trying to get it done. Not like the dishes, which are behind me, which I need to do. But, just like a checklist thing you haven't done, and I'm sure this has happened to you. And then you do it, and you just think, what the hell, man? Why was I doing that? All right? So at some point, if you hit this, and this is a lot of what the perpetual procrastination is about, at some point, you might get in situations where you just got to bulldoze it, man. Just get the shit done. Just do it, right? Just, hey, go in the mirror, get some water, splash on your face, slap your damn cheeks a couple times and be like, hey, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to get it done at this point. And trust me, as soon as you get that first sale, you got the proof of concept. It works. What you're doing is scalable. If you get one person to buy that, unless it's your mom or your dad, family members don't count. But if you get one person to buy it, even if it's someone that, I think that's fine. But you have to get that one proof, and then you scale it out, and then you're not going to be doing the hard stuff. You're going to get other people to do it who enjoy it. And then, again, it's better to push hard than push perfectly. You have no idea how much I've seen cool companies in Silicon Valley completely fail over this one thing. Like if I was a consultant for companies out here, and I'm not going to make everything about Silicon Valley, it's just where I'm at in my life right now. And I've seen it so much, man. I saw it in myself in the beginning where I wanted it to be perfect. Oh my God, what if they, find this bug, or, what if the spell check is bad on this, and still I'm guilty of doing it. I'm still guilty of doing it. All of these things are not things that I've perfected, right? These are all things that I constantly have to work with, but they're all in my mind, and they're constantly something that I fight hard, all right? So put it out there. Just like this book, I told you, I was really honest with you guys. I was a little bit nervous, and I keep telling you things I want to change. Who gives a shit? Put it out there. See if people are into it. Whatever you're doing, put it out there. See if you want it. Like the guy I told you that built the baseball pitching thing, right? If instead of trying to make it perfect, and he did, he went to China, he had them made up, all this stuff, and guess what? It didn't work. If he'd have just put it out there, see if it was going to get that first sale, right? See if it's going to convert. And then, no, it's not. Okay, then how can I do something similar? This is what I'm passionate about. What would work? Maybe it's something with the bat. Maybe it's with this, training this. Training things for sports is a huge market, right? All right, so I get into some sales copy stuff. That's something I'm super passionate about. I know that, not everyone's going to be into that, and that's okay. It's something I really got into, though, man. I love sales copy. Fear is relative to knowledge. This is, I don't know. Again, this is something maybe maybe you don't, but for me, this was important. Like, I'm scared of shit that I don't understand because I'm ignorant. And it took me a while to realize that. Especially with online business stuff, it'd be like, no, I don't know about sales copy. Yeah, well, go learn it, like start watching YouTube videos, research it, go nuts on it. You might love it. Running traffic, I was like that. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know about running traffic, or scared of spending money on that. What if I lose it? Well, then that fear is relative to knowledge. If you have enough knowledge, then instead of worrying about losing it, you're going to be, thinking about how you can make money, right? And that's been a big one. Removing yourself. Yeah, you can check that out. It's just a quick one on that as well. You sometimes take yourself out of the equation. Secrets to crushing it. Let's see what this is. Restaurant social network. Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is so damn true, man. All right. So basically, for any business, you got to build a blueprint. All right. And I strongly believe this. Now, at this point no, dude, I built a whole entire blueprint for all of this, dude. Dude, this is so funny. Oh, God, I hope he doesn't hear this and get mad, but I doubt it. Who's going to listen to this besides you, lonely traveler? And I really appreciate that because I know we're an hour in of me rambling. All right, so 2 ways. First off, you got to build a blueprint for everything. I was about to say at this point in my career, I don't, but then I realized I built an exact blueprint for everything that you see right here. And I'm going to tell you guys and be totally honest about this. So the first way is a Wild West cowboy. Option 1. You're going to blaze a trail, never been blazed before. You're going to go, you got 2 machine guns. You're just going to spray those bad boys and say, man, I hope this works. Right? Go to the compound, no game plan at all. So that's how I found most people try to run a business or start one, right? So let's look at this business. I like talking about the actual book that you're reading because it's kind of interesting. So, just to remind you, the book is, I believe, $5.99, right? So you buy the book. And then there's a video of me. There's an upsell, and it says, hey, thanks for buying the book. If you want to buy this course, it's also $99 called the Getting Started course. And I created that course completely to go with this book. That's on purpose. I want this really cohesive thing, right? So I get a high conversion rate on that. And then, yes or no. And then you go to one more upsell. I didn't want to go crazy here, just 2. And the second one is I actually got 2 other courses. And these are based on the 2 most important things I feel like really contributed to my success. And I picked these solely because of that. I thought about that. And again, I wanted it to complement the book. Everything goes with each other. You got to have cohesiveness here. And those 2 things are one course on building a social media following called Mini Influencer Secrets. The second one on building a workforce through outsourcing. And that's the 2 big things. Like I work social hard and I've had amazing talent for really, really cheap, right? And so how did I come up with that? Was it option 1? Did I just go, you know what, man, I'm going to sell this book. And, even if I didn't do any research, I said, I don't know. I heard about doing upsells. So I'm going to do some upsells. The first one, I'll just do No, that's not what I did. So I actually heard about a guy named Dean Graziosi, who I've met. And he had a book called Underdog something. Don't even know the name. But I saw that being advertised heavily. And I saw that it had like 1 billion likes on it, 1 billion views. Not really, but a ton. And I was like, okay, he's a smart guy. I know this guy crushes it. So I went and bought the book. And I turned on ScreenFlow. And I recorded every single part of it. And then every time a page popped up, I would save it in Chrome, file, save page as. And then I went through the whole entire process. And I bought the upsells, and I bought the book, I bought everything. And then I hired a guy on Upwork after I did that. Also wrote down all the URLs. And I said, hey, dude, ClickFunnels? That's the software I use to sell the book. And he was like, yeah. He's from India, speaks really bad English, but he's so good. So the only problem is a lot of times I'll tell him to do something, I come back and it's totally wrong. But man, he is like super badass when he gets it. And so, and I like him. His name's Surrender too, which is awesome. So I told Surrender, I was like, okay, so here's the deal, man. This is this guy named Dean. He's crushing it with this book. And right now I don't have any graphics. I don't even know what the book's going to look like. I'm still finishing it. I said, but I want you just to set up exactly what Dean has. Here's the pages, here's the video, I saved them all. Here's the URLs, or whatever, is everything you need. And just copy that for me. Like even, word for word, all the images, everything. And if you go look at it, it's the same format. Now I changed everything out. I would never use Dean or anyone else's stuff. But Dean's first upsell was $99. The second one was $199. One of his upsells had something to do with social media. And I thought about that. And I was like, man, that's a great angle, because that was, this would not have worked. I know I wouldn't have sold Bill Box without the social media. I was told that directly, that that being a mini influencer in the game space was an important part of that. And yeah, so that was my blueprint. So, that's the whole point of this section. The secret to crushing it is find someone that's crushing it. It's really easy these days. My God, it was hard as hell back in the day, like with the computer TV and all that stuff. Now it's like if you see someone advertising and they have 1 million views on a video they're advertising. I'll give you a great example. My first book I ever made and sold was like 1.5 years ago, and it was called Crushing Hyper-Casual Games. And that video on YouTube has 10 million views. It has 10 million views also on Facebook. So, 20 million views total. You see that being advertised. It's no question that worked. Like, how the hell would have I, spent $500,000 on that book? And that ROI, by the way, was, I think I spent $450,000 to make for like 480. It was like, almost double, a little bit more. Or not double, the same that I spent. So, and that's profit. So, it was, yeah, man, so that's the thing. And even with that, dude, I found someone that was selling a book, went through the whole entire process, and then, made something similar. And of course, made it my own. I'll give you a great example. Okay, here we go. So, yeah, so all of this was the same format. But, my thing is I don't ever copy. I want to model and improve. That's always been my thing. So what I did is also added in a sales copy in here, talking about like the stuff, right? And for me, that's super important. I didn't take what he did and change out the words. You see what I'm saying? I didn't like, if he wrote, like all this is different, right? This is all different. So I took the format of what worked. I took the pricing that worked, right? Maybe like this line's the same or something like that. But I didn't take I added my thing to it. I improved it. Because I don't know, Dean and whoever does his web pages, I don't know if they like copywriting. I love copywriting. All right, here, I'll show you one more thing while we're in here. Is with the order form. And this crushed it. But I was getting problems with Facebook. Actually, I don't know if it was that, but the other one's working really good. I'll show you in a sec. But yeah, I wrote this whole sales copy one night that went over my different side hustles that were successful. But I'll tell you what's funny. So this did pretty good. I didn't run it too long because some ads got turned down. I was worried it was because of this. And then I found out later it was like an automated thing. But there was one issue I had with this sales copy, and it was too much about me. So it was like me talking about my different side hustles, like video games. Yes, seriously. Hey, by the way, this kind of stuff might be cheesy, but what happens, man, if you're scrolling down and you see that, it like gets your attention. And when you're writing copy, whatever you have here has to be like your main focal point, right? That's what they're going to see, right? I'll tell you what's really interesting. I was at one of the really big social networks, and here in San Francisco, and I was meeting with them, and they were like, well, the thing about viewers, like on our site. And I was like, what? They're like, they only look at buttons. I was like, what do you mean? He was like, most people scroll and just look at buttons. Now, this is a sales copy. It has a bunch of text. But if we go over here, he's right. So what you have on your button is super important. I thought that was fascinating. He said, most people will scroll down, boom, look at the button. Then they'll keep scrolling, boom, look at the button. I thought that was cool. This is a very similar layout, again, to what I got from Dean. The difference is the copy is different. My video is totally different. But yeah, I totally got like the idea from him. Now, here's the thing again. I was excited about the sales copy, but this is converting at 2.5% on cold traffic. So people that don't necessarily know me, they come here and 2.5% purchase the book, and that's like good, man. Like if you get over 1%, you're doing good. If you get over 2, it's kind of crushing. So at that point, I was like, I don't know if the sales copy triggered any kind of disapproval on the ad or not, but it's probably not worth messing with. But I should be split testing that. Too much going on. All right, so anyways, go through the computer TV stuff, some interesting stories there. Now, part 2, this gets into the actual system. Oh my gosh, man, I know this video is going long, but man, this is some of my favorite stuff ever, dude. Reverse engineering is just, I love it. All right, so Kevin Mitnick, my God, if you guys have not read his book, Ghost in the Wires, it is really crazy, just nuts. So I go through a lot about how he did that. He's like the biggest hacker ever, if you don't know. And then I talk about cloning, and go through some stories like Odyssey. Most people think Pong was the original. It wasn't. It was Odyssey. Most people think Amazon was the first bookstore online. It wasn't. It was Bookstacks. And I go, oh, look at this. I have a little... There we go. Sorry, guys. Well, no, what is that? Push new, unproven. Oh, sorry. Go ahead and fix that while we're here. But it's interesting. Most of the things that you think of that are the iconic product for that market weren't the first to market. They were second to market. So I talk about that and how innovation is a super risky business model. Again, the guy I know who was doing the baseball thing, he was so excited. His wife, kids, man, the church, everyone was so excited. Like, man, he made this thing. But it was totally innovative, right? Here's the problem. Even if it had worked, he'd have been screwed. Bookstacks, for example, that was the first website ever to sell anything online. This is controversial. If you Google this, I've read up on this a lot. Arguably the first ever was Domino's or Pizza Hut, one of the big pizza chains, okay? And then Bookstacks was right there, though, right at the beginning. Now, they definitely were the biggest. And the thing is, no one's heard of them. And in 1994 is when the internet really was publicly available. I didn't get it until 96 or 97. And in 95, they did something like $250,000 in sales or something like insane. Or maybe it was like 100,000 books. I'm pretty sure it was about $250,000 in sales. Like, they were by far the largest retailer online. I mean, so you'd think they'd have it figured out. But man, what happened is all they did was leave a huge data trail. So someone else named Jeff Bezos was able to look at everything that they did while they're spending their money doing that machine gun spraying crap, right? Going, all right, trial and error, try this. Did it work? No. Okay, do this. Did it work? No. Okay, do. While they're doing all that, Bezos is sitting there watching them and going, okay, obviously that worked. Obviously this worked. All right, that did not work. All right, boom. Now, he was a genius because then he said, I'm going to start with books, move into CDs, then go into DVDs, and then, keep going. But, so the first mover just creates a data trail for you to look at and crush this a second mover. I'll give you another example. The TV software. If you follow that story, I saw someone else doing it. I saw someone else that was actually doing that. And then when I saw it was successful, I looked at what worked. I looked at what didn't work. Then I built out my whole entire campaign and crushed it. I don't know his numbers, but I would assume mine were better because that was pretty crazy. Another one, Poppy Jump. All right. Everyone knows Doodle Jump, right? Did you know that Poppy Jump came first? I mean, it was like, I'm not going to say a ripoff, but even because I'm a game developer, even though I don't develop game maker, but even the jump height on the games were similar. And, this is what got me in. Hey, fun, quick story here. This is what got me into game development because I was a huge Poppy Jump fan. Because, as soon as App Store came out, I was downloading apps. I was super stoked. Poppy Jump, if you guys remember, anyone who was around 2008 when the App Store came out, that was a huge game. It was in the top 10, top 15 all the time. And I played it like crazy. And then Doodle Jump came out, and then I saw they made $1 million. I was like, dude, they just ripped off Poppy Jump. But they didn't rip it off. They modeled it and improved it. They made it a lot better. They added special effects, They added cool characters. They added better graphics. So anyways, man, I started seeing this just working over and over and over. And again, first to market, worst to profit. All you're doing is setting up people like me to reverse engineer what worked, what didn't, and then come in and do that. And like you now. All right, news. So hate news. I watch no news, okay? Now, that said, huge Reddit guy, okay? If you don't know Reddit, reddit.com. Ridiculous amounts. My girlfriend's just as bad. We literally go to restaurants and just, I guarantee you, we probably send each other 100 Reddit stories a day. Like, the first thing I do when I wake up is open up, see some funny stuff, send it to her, and she's already sent me 5. So I do get news, all right? And I try not to get political news from Reddit because it is really one-sided. But you know what? At least it's honest. All right, because it's user-generated, upvoted. But unless there's bots. All right. But anyways, point being this. I'll tell you my problem with mainstream media and how they portray businesses, how they portray everything. As things moved away from TV to the internet, the focus became on clicks. People started seeing that headlines bring in better clicks. So clicks equal money. No longer is it about viewership because of this or that. It's not about getting huge brands anymore, like Tide to advertise, or pharmaceutical companies. Now we have to get clicks, and smaller brands, we have to make sure that they're on the page as well. So long story short, here's the huge issue, and I'm going to tell you a 5-second story to back this up. So my cousin Frank, I told you guys about him a couple times, and love the guy, he's great. And we're hanging out one day, and he says, "You know what, dude? I'm going to send an email to my email list, but we're going to do 2 different subject lines. 50% are going to see subject A, 50% are going to see subject B. The first one's going to be good news. The second subject line is going to be bad news. And let's see what happens." Bad news went on to be his second most highest open rate ever in the history of him sending emails. And that was not expected. Good news did like below average. If I remember correctly, it was like 6x higher, 600% on bad news. If you're curious, the number one open rate for both me and him, he stole it from me, was hey, H-E-Y. Don't know if that would translate today. This is a while ago, but still kind of funny. And that's the thing. Bad news gets clicks. Bad news gets attention. We all are focused on fear being a huge driver to click on to make sure we're going to be okay. Self-preservation, family preservation. And I hate to say it, man, our news has turned into a circus focusing on clicks. So most businesses don't fail. You've probably heard that 67% or 69 or whatever, 80% of businesses fail. And I'll go ahead and tell you, you can read it and I'll back it up with data. But the reason that they come up with that data number is that includes anyone who has opened an LLC and it doesn't work. I'll give you a great example. During the App Store days, I opened up 7 LLCs and did that for a weird reason we won't get into, aka an SEO hack I'd figured out where the company name ranked higher than anything else, and closed all those businesses. So, you pull the data, that's 7 businesses that died that never really brought in revenue. It's all about the clicks. All right, profit from your passions. You guys know this is really important to me. Great story here, by the way, about the guy who invented magic tricks. No one knows who he is. Card magic specifically. His name's S.W. Erdenez. Strongly recommend. This was one of the stories that I came across because I got into doing card tricks, and I was like, man, where'd this crap come from? Who started doing sleight of hand and stuff? And it was this guy. He wrote the first real popular book on it, and that's not his real name. People think it's it's backwards, which I think is what E.S. Andrews is what people think, E.S. Andrews or something like that. But no one ever knew who he was because when he wrote this in the 1800s, you would get killed for cheating at the card table, right? So he was a gambler, and he built all these sleight of hand tricks so he could win at card games, and released a underground book on it. So I talk about that and talk about how, the guy shouldn't have been doing that, also invented a whole thing, and all of it was because he was passionate about it, Also talk about, what's his name? Andrew W.K., who made a whole entire living out of partying and literally calls himself the party king, the partiest man alive. Fun fact, he doesn't even drink alcohol. But if you really like something, you can build a business out of it. How much money you're going to make is going to depend if it's high yield or low yield. That's the next section. But you can build a business out of anything. If you want to build a business out of, juggling sake bottles while you're hanging out with a ferret on your head, you can do that. I don't know who's going to be into it, but, you can do it. So then I go into, all right, so you're into something, all right? You like stuff. Then what are you into? What kind of hobbies is it? And then break it down. Is it going to be a high yield or a low yield industry? Is it going to be something that is going to be a lot of results on Google that people are searching for? And I talk about how to actually look into that. And then I go more into bell curve type stuff here, which is important, and talk about how you do want to research what you're interested in. no one does this stuff, right? Most people come with an idea and they go, hey, I'm going to go do this idea, right? I've never done that. Even if it was like a little thing on the side, I start small, which everything has started like that. I still don't do it. Like I look specifically, I wouldn't have gotten into making video games in 2010 if I didn't know for a fact that it was a big high yield market. And, actually there's one time I didn't do it, the piano course. I didn't know what I was doing then. Just got lucky. All right. So then, follow the money. And again, I talk about tracking people and looking at ads. That's been a huge way that I've had a head start in building out the blueprints. And then this section, this is probably my favorite section, to be honest with you, is the research attack ad espionage. And I talk about how to dive in and really see how people are running ads. And actually more into the specific, more kind of hacky stuff, which I'll get to in a second, is my favorite part. SIL method, all right, like 4 things that you want to find out and answer before you actually choose to build your product. Like, how is the market? It's supposed to say saturated. And you know what happened? My proofreader didn't catch that. Is it expandable? You don't want to grab something that's not. Is it an accessible product? Long-term advantage. Make sure to read that. That's really important. I would not launch a product unless it met all that criteria. All right, so here's the part I meant that's my favorite, is when I get into competitive research. This stuff I'm not going to go over, but I strongly recommend reading it. You can find out some really cool stuff about people in your market by doing this. It's pretty cool, like kind of underground stuff. So I strongly recommend checking that out. Again, probably my favorite section. This is the stuff that like I would not even tell people about before. And I said, you know what, I'll just put it in the book. Who cares? It's a huge competitive advantage to know all this. And then the product, I get into blueprint, production, actually making the product, reversing other people's stuff and seeing exactly how they did it, breaking it down. Conversions, super important. I'll talk a lot about upsells and how to do it, like you saw with the book. Even talk about negotiating and tactics I use for that. Then how to deploy. And I'm going through this faster because this is more like step-by-step stuff. It's not theoretical, It's not like this changed how I did my business. It's like, yeah, here's how you do this stuff, Where the first section's more about building out and getting you right and finding the right product. That's more of it. And then, all of this is just my history through growing the company. And, at this point, it's like talking about, okay, so here's how to get like to 7 figures, like to have your great reputation with the prospects, with the customers, how to do that through social media, buying out the competition. That doesn't mean purchasing them. It means having cheaper ad clicks so they can afford to go against you, exclusive products. And then this one through the box, this is the last one. I really like this. First off, it goes through what is outside the box. You've heard that before, like where that comes from. I kind of go through a little history there. And then talk about how important I think it is to think outside the box as you grow. Because I spend a lot of this talking about, hey, look, you want to find what works, right, for someone else and then model and improve it and do that better. And so this talks about like once you do that, you can't just keep doing that, in my opinion. Once you become the market leader, right, that's when you innovate. And I think Amazon, again, is a great example. First, okay, this guy's doing books. We're going to do books, all right? Then really starts innovating. Okay, well, now let's go ahead and move into CDs. Let's do lateral markets. And I'll talk about that in here as well, doing lateral markets. But I think that's a super important part. It's the model and improve is what you do in the beginning. Once you actually build a community and a customer base and you become the market leader, like we did at BuildBox, right? Like the way we did that, all right, the first thing I did was like make this simple software because everyone else's software was super complicated. And our software was like super simple, right? And then it's like, okay, add more. And then we became the market leader. So at that point, I'm not looking to the competition that can't keep up with us on getting ideas to model and improve. You see what I'm saying? Like once you become the market leader, you can't do that because there is nothing to find from them. So at that point, you have to innovate. You have to switch your style of thinking. So I'll close it out with that. And guys, so that's the book. This was a much longer video than I anticipated. And if anyone's counting, it's 2:13 a.m. and I'm going to bed. But I hope you enjoyed it, guys. Again, passion project, about a 10-year thing for me. And it was a blast. And I hope you learned a lot from it. I hope it helps you out. All right, Trey Smith, I'll talk to you later, guys.